Have you ever sent someone a message and immediately started questioning it? Did that sound rude? Why haven't they replied? Maybe I said too much. Before you know it, one unanswered message has turned into an entire disaster story in your mind. That's overthinking. Overthinking happens when we keep analyzing the same situation over and over without getting any closer to a useful answer. It feels like we're solving a problem, but in reality, our thoughts are just moving in circles, replaying the same worries, imagining different outcomes, and creating stress without creating solutions. Thinking carefully is useful. It helps us understand problems, make better decisions, and learn from our experiences. But overthinking is different. Instead of helping us move forward, it keeps us mentally stuck. We replay the past, worry about the future, and create endless what-if scenarios that may never happen. Over time, this constant cycle can become exhausting. It can affect our sleep, lower our confidence, strain our relationships, and make even the simplest everyday decisions feel overwhelming. So, how do you know whether you're thinking or overthinking? Helpful thinking normally leads to a decision or action. Imagine you have a job interview tomorrow. Helpful thinking sounds like, I'll research the company, prepare a few answers, and get a good night's sleep. Overthinking sounds like, what if I forget everything? What if they don't like me? What if I never find a good job? What if my entire career goes wrong? Notice how quickly one interview becomes a crisis about your entire future. Overthinking usually begins with a reasonable concern. The problem is that your mind keeps producing more questions instead of useful answers. One cause of overthinking. Sometimes it comes from fear. We believe that if we analyze every possible outcome, we can prevent something bad from happening. Sometimes it comes from perfectionism. We want to make the perfect decision, say the perfect thing, and avoid every possible mistake. It can also develop from past experiences. If you've been criticized, rejected, or hurt before, your brain may become more alert to potential danger. And sometimes we overthink simply because we're facing uncertainty. The human brain likes clear answers. When information is missing, the mind tries to fill in the gaps, and it often fills them with negative possibilities. For example, imagine your manager sends you a message saying, "Can we talk tomorrow?" That's all the information you have. But your brain immediately responds, "I've done something wrong. They're unhappy with my work. I'm probably going to lose my job." In reality, your manager might simply want to discuss a new project. Overthinking tries to protect us from uncertainty, but it often creates fear where no real danger exists. Overthinking doesn't only affect your mind. It can also affect your body, relationships, work, and daily life. You may struggle to sleep because your brain becomes more active when everything around you is quiet. You may find it difficult to concentrate because part of your attention is trapped inside an imaginary conversation. You might also delay decisions because you're afraid of making the wrong choice. Overthinking can even affect relationships. Someone sends you a shorter reply than usual, and you assume they're upset. Then you become distant, even though nothing is actually wrong. That's one of the biggest dangers of overthinking. We start reacting to assumptions as if they are facts. First way to manage overthinking is to separate facts from stories. Ask yourself, what do I actually know? And then ask, what story am I creating around it? Let's return to the unanswered message. The fact is that the person hasn't replied yet. The story is that they're angry, ignoring you, or no longer interested in talking to you. Those stories may feel real, but you don't have enough information to confirm them. Instead, tell yourself, I don't know why they haven't replied, and I don't need to decide what it means yet. You're not forcing yourself to think positively. You're simply choosing to think accurately. The second tip is to focus on what you can control. You cannot control how everyone sees you. You cannot change the past, and you cannot guarantee what will happen in the future. But you can control your next action. If you're worried about an interview, you can prepare. If you've made a mistake, you can apologize or correct it. If you're waiting for an answer, you can decide when it would be reasonable to follow up. Ask yourself, is there something useful I can do right now? If the answer is yes, take one small action. If the answer is no, remind yourself that repeating the thought won't give you more control. The third tip is to give your thoughts a time limit. If something is bothering you, don't tell yourself, I need to stop thinking about this. That usually doesn't work. Instead, give yourself 10 or 15 minutes to think about the problem. Write down your concerns, look at the facts, decide if there's an action you can take. Then, when the time is up, intentionally move on. You can tell yourself, I've given this enough thought for now, If I need to deal with it later, I can come back to it. This teaches your brain that not every thought needs your attention all day. The fourth tip is to return to the present moment. Overthinking often pulls us into the past or the future. We replay conversations that already happened, or we imagine problems that haven't happened yet. When you notice this happening, bring your attention back to what's actually happening right now. Look around and name 5 things you can see. Notice 4 things you can touch. Listen for 3 things you can hear. Take 2 slow breaths. And notice 1 thing you're grateful for. This simple exercise gives your brain something real to focus on instead of imaginary problems. The 5th tip is to accept that some decisions will never feel 100% certain. You can research, compare, and think carefully, but eventually you have to choose. Ask yourself, do I have enough information to make a reasonable decision? If the answer is yes, make the decision and move forward. You don't need to know that it is the perfect choice. You only need to know that it is a good enough choice with the information you have right now. The goal isn't to stop thinking. Thinking is useful. It helps us learn, plan, and solve problems. The goal is to recognize when thinking has turned into a loop and then choose to step out of it. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking, pause. Ask yourself, what are the facts? What is actually within my control? Is there something useful I can do right now? And if there isn't, give yourself permission to let the thought go. You don't have to believe every thought your mind produces. You can notice it, question it, and choose what deserves your attention. Because your thoughts are something you experience. They don't have to control you.